Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Amber Canyon. The voters of Los Angeles have a decision to make in coming months. The mayoral election is just around the corner, and candidates are weighing in on issues such as transportation, finance, and education. Although only a few events have been televised, candidates have participated in over 30 debates leading up to the March primary. 5 candidates, Eric Garcetti, Wendy GREUEL, Jan Perry, EMANUEL PLEITEZ, and Kevin James have traveled around Los Angeles highlighting their concerns and future plans for the city. Rick Costello is the administrator in charge of the elementary education department at Cal State Northridge. Costello spoke with On Point reporter Emily Davies about the Los Angeles Unified School District and the role of the future mayor. Costello says the mayor has significant influence on education through district officials, but he thinks that influence may be too much.
How much power should the mayor have?
You know, in normal circumstances, I'd say none. When you allow politics into the education system, it can be confusing, it can be divisive, it can keep you from where you want to go. LA has suffered in recent years with a loss economically as far as support from the state and the federal governments. It's had to deal with challenges from political influences, both internally and externally. So in our case, and at this time, probably the involvement of the mayor with the district has been positive. Unfortunately, I think in the long run, that can be detrimental when you get people in office who may have interest that take away from the educational goals and aspirations of the district. So right now, it's probably working. In the long run, could it be problematic? Yeah, it certainly could be.
Despite his outlook on mayor involvement, Costello has some suggestions he feels would be beneficial to the education community.
If there's something a future mayor could do, I think it's bring in people who are not so connected to the problem that they have to consider the politics, the people, the place, getting reelected, getting reappointed, making money, having their own interests served, and say what is happening nationally, what is happening in places that are having success, what kinds of things could we be doing that could really make a difference. And I think if you looked at those, that mayor could have influence on the legislators to say we need to get some of the roadblocks that you folks have built out of the way. Could say to the administration, look, we're going to trust you, we're going to give you the support and the backing you need to do things as long as you can show you're doing them. We aren't going to leave you alone, but we want to see that there's changes that are taking place. Again, I think you've got a very strong superintendent, Mr. Daisy, Dr. Daisy, who has a handle on a lot of these things. But it's a big, large, complex organization, and everybody's got to be working together. And if they're spending time at odds with each other, they're never going to get it done.
Although some CSUN students admitted they weren't following the election, they were able to use their personal experiences to weigh in on LA's 60% graduation rate and other issues.
I mean, in Chicago, well, the high school I went to, we started with, I think, like 1,100 kids, and we had like 950 graduated. So most of the kids graduated. The public schools in the city were a little bit worse, but not nearly that bad.
It seemed as if the LAUSD had a lot of problems with like funding.
When I was going through it, actually, I had a pretty good experience, but I was in the GATE programs and all that good stuff, so I felt like I got a pretty good experience from it. But I know some of the schools, it was kind of in the area I was in too, I feel, but I know some of the schools were pretty bad.
They should probably invest in education first and then, put the money elsewhere.
Hopefully somebody can find some kind of solution to really bump up the state education because we're really falling behind as a state and as a country.
On Point's Nasseripourtowsi will be speaking with the only Republican candidate up for election, Kevin James. But first, let's take a look at what some of the other candidates had to say about education after a debate recently held on the CSUN campus.
We have to get money down to the schools and make sure that we have the kind of job training programs, that we have the career programs. But it starts in elementary school and middle school so that when kids get to high school, that they have the skills necessary to be able to graduate.
Middle school is where we begin to lose young people and lose our ability to engage them and to truly put them on a path so that they can graduate, one, and then go on to higher education, number two. I also intend to work on funding working with LAUSD on adult education, because not only do you need to focus on the child, you need to focus on educating the entire family so the entire family can move forward.
We need more education and recreation opportunities. Absolutely, we need to double them. Every single school needs an after-school program. Then we need to look at weekends. We need to look at every hour of the day that is not being serviced by the school district and leverage the fact that we do have a bunch of schools and a bunch of municipal properties where we could be offering more programs. Then we need to garner the volunteerism, the talent that we have in the city of Los Angeles.
Other mayoral candidates were also invited to join us in our discussion of education today, but others had prior engagements or didn't reply. Now here's Bijan Nasseripourtowsi with candidate Kevin James.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you for being with me today.
My pleasure, Bijan. Thank you for having me.
First, we're going to talk about some education issues, okay? I'd like to start with being that we're on a college campus, Cal State Northridge. I wanted to ask you, because CSUN is the destination for a lot of city's high school graduates.
Yes.
And students here have a sense that K through 12 education isn't as good as it should be. So in terms of how much control the mayor does have in day-to-day practical terms, does the mayor of Los Angeles really have any control over what happens in the city schools?
Well, technically, as you know, Bijan, legally the mayor doesn't have legal jurisdiction over the schools and cannot exert official control. However, the mayor and this mayor, I will be a partner with the LAUSD, with the board, with the district, with the superintendent to make sure that the LAUSD is able to implement reform measures to further incentivize parents to be involved in their education. The one thing that the mayor can do, and I think it's perhaps the most powerful tool. Some would argue that it's the only tool that the mayor has. And in an ABC 7 debate, the televised debate that we had recently, the question came up whether or not the mayor should try and find a way to exert some sort of official control over the schools. And the point I made is that a mayor that has credibility with the voters can be successful in working to reform our K through 12 education, really from the power of the office and the power of the podium. Just by being willing to go into the media, to go out into the public, you know, and to find and to learn what parents think and what students think about ways to improve education. One of the things that I have said I will do as mayor is have a monthly town hall with parents of LAUSD students, K through 12. Every month in various parts of the city, I will meet with parents of LAUSD students so that they have an independent side to offer solutions, to air their concerns, maybe even grievances regarding the district that is separate and apart from the district. As you can find on my website at kevinjamesformayor.com, on my education platform, you'll see that one of the offices that I will add in the mayor's office will be an education information officer that is a sounding board for parents separate and apart from the district. In addition to that, I'll have an education information officer which will, well, an education liaison that will be a partner with the district and with the board. One of the things that I have done, because I am a proponent of choice, school choice for parents and students, and curriculum choice for students. You know, when kids get into their high school years, I want as many kids to be ready to come to CSUN that want to come to CSUN. But I recognize that not every student wants to go to college or is headed in that direction, but we definitely want them to be career ready. So for that reason, I have called on and published a position paper in the Huffington Post calling on the LAUSD to create a trade tech diploma so that a student can decide if they want a college-bound curriculum or if they want a vocational trade tech shop class curriculum. Because we need masons, we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need auto mechanics, and those are jobs that are right here in our community. They're good paying jobs and we don't ship them overseas. So I like for parents to have choice in the schools that their kids attend in partnership with their kids, and for the same folks to have choice about the direction their kids take.
Some 2/3 of the CSU freshmen require remedial classes in math and English. Is it the responsibility of a city's public school system to prepare graduates for college?
Absolutely. To be clear, What I was saying is that the students that want a college-bound curriculum, all right, should absolutely have that ability and have that direction. We're headed in that direction now. That's the goal of the LAUSD now. But when I call for the trade tech diploma choice, it's for students to be able to get a high school diploma in a vocational direction, because we have too many kids that don't find their way with a college-bound curriculum, that are dropping out of class and dropping out of school, and are not finding their direction or finding their way to a good career. That's why I want to have the choice.
No.
But I do believe that, and it's something that I would do as mayor, we want to improve the quality of K through 12 so that every high school student graduating from the LAUSD is ready for college. Whether it's CSUN, whether it's UCLA, whether it's USC, whether it's Cal State LA, or whether it's Arizona State, or whether it's my alma mater, the University of Oklahoma. Our kids need to be college ready and career ready.
It seems that that's one of the main issues is the dropout rate. How can you lower the dropout rate?
Well, one of the ways that you lower the dropout rate, as I have said, is you've got to give students a choice. You know, one of the reasons that I presented a trade tech diploma was because some students will find their passion in wood shop, in machine shop. Something else that I've suggested, and my position paper also puts forth a way to pay for this, because that's always a challenge, you know, as in today's budget, in the challenges we're facing in today's budget world, with finding ways to pay for these things. We've got to bring arts back into the school, music, theater, because students that are able to find their passion, it gives them just another reason to be in school, to be excited about being there, and to do well. So that's, and passion comes with choices. Every student is different. Every kid is different. So why don't we provide as many options and as many choices as we possibly can? Because then we will see more students succeed. Then we will see dropout rates decrease, and we'll get to the numbers that existed when I was graduating from high school. I'm an older guy. I got out of high school in 1981. And the dropout rates were almost non-existent in, you know, just 30-some years ago, and we have to turn that back on.
So are there any other plans that you have to keep people engaged and in school?
Yes.
Besides the plan that you're...
Besides the trade tech, sure.
Exactly.
I have been a longtime supporter of the parent revolution that turned into the parent trigger legislation. And parent trigger is something that, what I did many years ago as a broadcaster was provide an outlet, provide a media outlet, much like this, although it was radio, to the parent revolution to get the word out to the public in a meaningful way, in a persuasive way, to the people across the city to get support for the parent trigger legislation that we were able to pass through the state legislature. The reason I supported it early on is I have always believed, my mother was a high school teacher my years growing up in a public school district, and I just know from the parent teacher conferences that I would hear her on the telephone at night, sometimes even after I was instructed to go to bed, that the more involved parents are in their kids' education, the better the likelihood that the student's going to have success. And so the parent trigger and the parent revolution seemed to me as a great way to further incentivize parents to be involved in their kids' education, because it gives them some power, it gives them some control which they need in connection with the schools that are educating their kids, because too many parents connected to the LAUSD were feeling like the district wasn't listening to them. I was honored to speak some months ago at the commencement ceremony at the Vanguard Learning Center, which is part of the Compton School District. And what they do at Vanguard is it's a training procedure, a training process, a training program for parents who their kids are just now entering school. And, but it's a training program for parents to teach them how to be more involved with their kids' education. You know, what some of the options are, what some of the various programs are that are available to them. You know, and it was a program that I didn't even know existed, and was very pleased to learn about it.
I believe parents can pretty much get involved if the schools are not up to par, if the teachers they don't feel are right?
If you've got a failing school, a majority of parents can organize, pull the trigger on a school, and then they have options. The school can bring in new administration. The school can become a charter school.
Charter schools, yes.
Yeah, there are a number of options that the parents at that point have.
How do you feel about charter schools?
I support them. The reason that I support charter schools, I support magnets. Again, it goes back to something that I was talking about earlier, Bijan, and that is choices for parents and students. I believe the more choices that they have, the more options that they have, the better chance of success we all have.
Now, we spoke to a CSUN educator that deals with elementary policy in the LAUSD. His name is Rick Castillo, and from what he said is the mayor's influence on education is through the district officials.
Well, I think he's right officially, but let me tell you, the mayor can, and what we've seen with Mayor Villaraigosa,
yes,
and this is something that I have said that I would do as mayor. I'm not afraid to step in to the education system in Los Angeles in the way that I would support good, qualified, reform-minded school board candidates as mayor. Help them raise money, endorse their candidacy, which is something that Mayor Villaraigosa has done. And so I think that might be what the educator that you referenced is talking about. That's something that Mayor Villaraigosa has not shied away from, and frankly, it's something that I would not shy away from either.
How will you work with the school board presidents, or school board president Monica Garcia, and
really in partnership? You know, I know Monica. I don't know her well, but I've sat on recently. Just sat on a panel with her. I see her around town. I've interviewed a number of the school board members as a member the broadcast media. Tamar Gallatin was a regular on my show, and I just sat down and did an interview much like this with her for the LAUSD network. And you know, what the mayor has to be is a partner with the board, and like I said, with the district. And with the superintendent. I spent 45 minutes not too long ago with Superintendent Daisy, just going over some policy ideas as I was working on my education platform that's available on my website. That came after a meeting with Superintendent Daisy going over a number of challenges that the district faces.
do you believe education is the most important issue of this election?
I think it is one of the top 3 issues that we face in the city. I think that one, obviously, it's education is one of them because it relates directly to our future. The others that I would add is the necessity that we create a job-friendly environment in Los Angeles and the absolute mandate that we balance our budget in the city. Now, I want to add an argument, and I've done so, and I've sought to do so in this campaign, that relates directly to education. And my argument, my position, really marries education and the economy in just a new way of thinking. Because what we have to do is find another way to make education even more of a priority than it has already been. And I make the point, Bijan, that when you would think that when we're talking about our kids, or we are talking about education in general, that's enough for us to make education the priority that it has to be. But it hasn't been, because at K through 12 levels, we have failed. So I have added in this campaign an economic argument. And the economic argument I make is that how can you expect us in the city of Los Angeles to be able to convince existing businesses to stay in our city, to recruit new businesses to come to Los Angeles, when we don't have a public education school system that is sufficient enough that the employees of those companies, those businesses, are comfortable putting their kids in. So that adds an economic element to the urgency and the importance of focusing on our public education.
President Obama said last week he wants to make access to quality preschool a priority. Do you agree?
Education K through 12, as I have always maintained, is and as deep as we can go to find success and to start early, I think we should.
Now, I'm going to talk about kind of more the role of the mayor, kind of shy away from education, but one last one. Should the federal government be involved in education? And you have said that not all high school graduates should go to college, like you mentioned earlier.
That's not what I said. I said there are high school graduates that don't want to go to college.
You did.
And the ones that don't want to go to college should be career ready for another career. And we have allowed that curriculum, those classes, vocational classes, shop classes, the arts, to be taken away from public education. And what my position paper calls for is for them to be reinstated, and I provide a method through which we can pay for it.
Okay. Okay, let's switch to the kind of the role of the mayor.
Okay.
Being that you are somewhat of an outsider besides some of the other candidates.
I'm a complete outsider compared to that. You don't have to tiptoe around that, Bijan. I'm a complete outsider from the other candidates.
Can an outsider work successfully with the complicated group of stakeholders?
Oh, absolutely. I think an outsider can work more easily and more successfully with stakeholders all across the city. What has allowed to happen with the insiders that we've had is that just a very few special interests have had complete control in City Hall. And that has to change, and it will change with me as mayor. But I'm an interesting kind of outsider, Bijan. I'm an outsider in the sense that I have never worked inside of City Hall. However, I have covered City Hall for almost a decade as a broadcaster. And so that means that you are, in essence, even though you're not working directly within City Hall, you are working with City Hall. And I've done so in a number of ways. And my time with City Hall really began in the 90s. When I was in leadership at AIDS Project Los Angeles, and Mayor Reardon, who's endorsed my candidacy, was the mayor at the time. Our relationship goes back many, many years. When we were running a $20 million a year budget every year, as we were at APLA, with over 1,000 volunteers, hundreds of employees, and we served over 10,000 clients in the city. We needed to have a good working relationship with our city government, the county, the state, and the federal government. And we did. And so my outsider status really is, I think, better today described as an independent status. Independent of the public sector union leadership that has had too much of a stranglehold over our elected officials, such that we now find ourselves on the brink of bankruptcy.
Do you feel it's bad management during a worldwide economic crisis, corruption potentially, or?
Well, I think that
the unions, pressure of the unions?
All of that goes, all of that I think is part of the problem. But what I won't allow my opponents to do is to try and say that the fiscal challenges that we face in the city of Los Angeles today is because of the economic recession that we experienced in 2008. Because the salary raises that they signed off on, that they all three now admit they regret signing off on, and it was the wrong decision to make at the time. It was based on projections. But what's irresponsible about it was they made the decision to pay these city employee raises at a time that the city was facing a significant deficit then. In 2007, we were already spending more money than we were taking in. So the national economy was irrelevant, because it's irresponsible to spend that kind of money when you don't have it to begin with, regardless of what's happening at the national economy. The fact that they were willing to do so and to not make any plans for what might happen at the national level demonstrates just how reckless the decision was. Because when the national economy did take a turn for the worst, we had no way to prepare for it. And on top of that, you cannot blame, when you have, like the city of Los Angeles has, a city that, Bijan, when I was graduating, when I was just a little bit older than you, and I moved here as a young person to find my future, this city was the land of opportunity. A person in your position then had choices of jobs. And that doesn't happen right now in the city of LA. Our unemployment rate is 50% higher than the national average. You cannot blame that just on the national economic downturn, and I won't. Now, let me get to your question, though, directly, to be more fair to you. You asked about the GOP changing its face a bit.
Exactly.
I don't hide from the fact that I'm an openly gay man, and I know that the media has found that interesting about my candidacy. I do believe that I am a broader-based type of Republican, and that I provide new opportunities for the Republican Party. I have been a strong advocate for same-sex marriage for many years as a member of the gay community, and I believe as the nation comes along that the rest of the country will eventually see this issue as one of equal protection, as our community has seen it for a very long time. But for us to get there completely, we need to bring and find allies from both political parties. We have allies in the Democrat Party, and we need to bring more allies along from the Republican Party. But I've been involved in issues in my community for a very long time, and I have watched opposition from both parties. And I know that for us to truly reach equality, whether it's on same-sex marriage, whether it's the progress that we've made on gays in the military, it takes a bipartisan effort. And there's no better way to obtain or to succeed in a bipartisan effort than to have people in both parties. And so I do represent that difference in the Republican Party, and I think it is important for the party. I think it is important for Los Angeles. It's important for all communities of diversity across Los Angeles, and it's good for our state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin James, for opening up to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bijan. I appreciate it.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at fatherhood.gov.
We would like to thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on Facebook by searching CSUN On Point and on Twitter at CSUN On Point, all one word. The show appears on our website at CSUNTVnews.com, and we air on television channel LA 36, Sundays at 4 o'clock. For Bijan Nasseripourtowsi, I'm Amber Canyon. Thank you for watching On Point.